we talk about earthing from the standard, and generator sets are in there, and we tend to think about generator sets as
big, smelly, chuggy things.
Put diesel in and stuff like that, don't we? But you're great at confirming that it's going to be batteries now are going to be the new generator sets, aren't they? Or PV is going to be the next big thing. Hello and welcome to another CEF Tech Talking podcast. You join us here with Mark Coles from the IET. Dave's here as well. He's always here, always standing here. Yeah, now, we are going to be talking today about generators. Generators. I always remember call them generators because when you wanted to remember the laws in
Fleming's right.
Fleming's left and right, you used generator, and then you knew the other one was for whatever. So this one was generator.
left.
Used to see all the apprentices when you knew they got through to that question in the exam paper, and they'll be doing this. Everyone trying to work out what one, the flux, and which way's the direction, all that. So yeah. Anyway, generators. Big ones, small ones, cheaper by the 1,000. That's it. You've got everything I know about generators.
Yes, I must admit, it's not an area of strength for me, so we're over to you on this one, Mark.
I think what I want to highlight here was in the troubled times we find ourselves in, the cost of energy, we are certainly in the IT's technical helpline, we're getting calls from people, not just installers, but from people who are calling up and say, I've bought a generator.
We've seen George over at ICS. He's got a generator set for his boat.
For his boat.
He lives on a boat.
That's right,
He lives on his boat, and he's got this generator set that he strikes up, and he puts petrol in it, off it goes, and that's charging his installation. And you're seeing more and more of that, are you, at the IET?
With the belief that if you fuel it from, diesel or petrol, whatever it would be, don't know, but the concept is that they'll reduce their fuel bills. They'll get electricity in the house, of course, they'll have power, but they won't be using what's coming in from the street. They'll be using the generator. Ooh. Now, what I want to highlight is
how they're doing that,
we certainly in Europe. Now, one example in Europe that is being outlawed in the Netherlands actually, but they're buying PV panels.
Right,
because it's a generator.
It's a generator. It's
the
clearly
black
a generator
box mentality.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what's going on. You've got the terminals coming out, and you'll pick up the supply from there.
Yeah.
What's happening in certainly in Germany, again, it's been outlawed in the Netherlands, but they're buying PV with a cable with a plug on the end, and the plug is the Schuko, the European Schuko plug. And they're plugging it in. They're hanging it on their balcony, for example, and they'll plug it in to a socket, and then therefore they'll synchronise, and it's
backfeeding in via the ring final circuit or the radio.
What's also happening is those with bigger balconies are buying a number of these and plugging them into an extension lead.
Oh, wonderful.
And one extension lead has maybe 3 or 4 of these.
Great, here we go. We're up and running now, aren't we?
And you think about it, up to now in this over here, what we've done is when we've had PV, if the supply goes off in the street, you wouldn't go into an island mode, the inverter would shut down.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
So with that concept, where you've got a PV panel and another PV panel, if they lose the supply, the PV panel's looking at the other PV panel, you're generating, and it's not shutting down. So you can end up feeding the whole neighbourhood.
Yeah.
So it gets a bit silly. Not only dangerous, it gets a bit silly. So that's what's happened. That's just one example of what's going on there. And no doubt people can buy these on eBay.
Well,
themselves.
My next door neighbour, when I used to live 2 houses ago, we had a power cut in the road. You've had a power cut recently, David.
We have lots of power cuts.
Yeah, we had a power cut, and he wanted to have his heating on, and he worked out that if he got his generator set out and he put a long lead on there and he put a 13 amp plug on it and plugged it in, he worked out he could get the kitchen ring live. He turned off the consuming it. He thought he knew what he was doing, and he livened it up, but just enough to get the boiler up and running so he could have heating. And I said to him, "You do realise them pins are live?" And he just couldn't get it in his head what he was doing. The pins on the 13 amp plug, they're live. Right. They're going to be live. Yeah. And he said, "Yeah, but that's how I'm doing it." He was back feeding into that ring final circuit for the kitchen, and that's what you're on about. It's happening with these balconies and people doing that.
Yeah.
And again, these generator sets and the scale of the generator sets are something we're really going to have to start to look about. We talk about earthing from the standard, and generator sets are in there, and we tend to think about generator sets as
big, smelly, chuggy things.
Put diesel in and stuff like that, don't we? But you're great at confirming that it's going to be batteries now are going to be the new generator sets, aren't they? Or PV is going to be the next big thing. Now, when we say big thing, generator sets come in all different sizes, don't they? And I used to get quite a few calls on the helpline when I was on the helpline for all them years, and people were saying, I'm trying to test or get a ZE from a generator set, and I couldn't get it. And through talking to them about what they tell me about the generator, the sets of generators were sort of small embedded generators, these small things, less than 6 kVA.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, or lower, them types of things. People weren't really understanding that you can't really get an earth from those, or you weren't meant to be getting an earth from those.
Well, even though it had a socket outlet, it might have a 13 amp socket outlet on there, but the pin, the pin of the earth pin, the receptacle when you put your plug in, that's just connected to the chassis.
Yeah,
it's not going back to the winding, so there's no earth path.
Yeah.
So it's electrical separation that you're using.
That's
there.
it. That's what I used to tell them. So the method of protection isn't ADS. So you're not going to expect an earth path to go back to the start point of the transformer, which is the generator, and then back out again and blow a fuse. That's not going to happen, is it?
It would pop the fuse, overcurrent protection that could be circuit breakers automatically provided, but that would be overload or it would be short circuit, but not to earth. Now, those generators, because they're not earth, they're fine for one item of current using equipment, or they'd be fine for numerous class 2 items of equipment.
Those are class 2.
But it's where if you're going to operate more than one item of class 1 current using equipment, because it's not earthed, if you get faults on both of them, you can pick up. You could be the path between the two of them, because if a fault to earth on there, fault to the bottom, it could be a washing machine and a dryer. Let's just say, for example, this chap that you know has done that.
The dodgy neighbour.
And he's running that from a generator that isn't earthed, and it's a floating generator. So you've just got the line in neutral to the socket outlet, and he's got an extension lead. If you get faults on them between them, you can then be the fault path, and that could be super dangerous. And you know, the RCD wouldn't see that. No, if there was one, even.
The way you can sort of identify these, if you go to start to look at the voltage, so you measure line to neutral on the voltage indicator, you're going to get around about 220 volts. If you then go line to earth, you'll get 110 volts. If you go neutral to earth, you get another 110 volts. That's the types of these small generators we're talking about. The larger generators, you'll get those.
Anything to earth, because there's nothing. The windings aren't connected to the earth pin. So
just simply between the two, isn't it? You're going to get those between the two terminals. You're going to get that 220, isn't it? And each one is 110 each, isn't it? So it's across them you get the 220.
Well, where it's centre tapped, you get, and centre tap means centre tap to earth.
Yeah. So it depends.
But in these floating generators up to 6 kVA, you wouldn't see that.
You're going to get those.
But as you know, Burger vans.
They're the ones, the chip vans, and they're the ones we see, aren't they?
And there are some good manufacturers out there, the bodybuilder manufacturers, but of course there's a lot of lash up installations going on.
The other ones that we tend to see is the larger generators that do need an earth. Now these that do need an earth, it's not BS7671 world, is it? This is into a different world, isn't it?
Well, it's usually events or exhibitions, aren't they?
Yeah.
So there's a different...
there's a different standard. Yeah.
BS7430, the code of practice for earthing.
But what's the one for temporary installations?
BS7909.
That's it, 7909.
And funny enough, it's just been last week was published. 2023 is the new version. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
It's
so there's
revision.
There's another version out there. Now we spoke to a guy at this Tech Talk about this because he had a problem, didn't he?
He did. He came to me because he knows I do the work with the band, and he said he was putting these generators in, and he just couldn't get the 20 ohms on the earth electrode. And he said, "What was my solution?" I said, "I don't have one because I don't put the generators in. I just ring someone up and they come and do it." He said, "Yeah, but I'm the bloke you ring up." Yeah. So it's a problem. He's talking about particularly difficult areas where there's concrete surfaces.
Yeah.
Not so bad if you've got a nice big grassy field. You can get an electrode and you might get your 20 ohms. But again, you've got to get that 20 ohms before you energise, haven't you?
Well, your colleague Leon, he was talking to us about a lot of the stuff he's doing around earthing over at the IET, and he was saying that there is a thought that we should be moving away from driving electrodes in because of the danger associated with that practice of driving these rods into the ground, and then trying to move towards a culture that includes mats. over electrodes, and maybe that is right. We should be looking to do that.
Well, you can get a greater surface area, can't you? So if it's difficult to get that contact.
But hang on, step back. What would be the scenario? Because a generator, conventionally, we'd be looking at a generator for something either backup or temporary.
Well, you've got to dig them out in temporary.
Yeah,
that'd be hard, wouldn't it?
I mean, he's doing these big outdoor shows where you need to put in a
I've certainly seen the mat concept in terms of the skids, the metal skids that the vans park on.
I've seen that as well.
And it's almost like putting
the contact of the base of the generator going to be enough, if it's a big old surface area.
I've seen it where those mats, they're interconnected, but they've been connected to the main earthing terminal.
Yeah.
And whatever they're achieving, I don't know. But this 20 ohms is completely impossible in the big scheme of things, isn't it?
Well, he was telling us how impossible it was, because he said he can only drive an electrode 200
Well,
he said after it's granite or something.
Yeah, that's right. It was granite. It's about 20 mil into the ground. He said he couldn't get it any further. And then he said he drilled a pilot hole, didn't he?
That's
he
it, yeah.
Drilled through the rock
to try and get
it. You're not going to get contact with that.
No, not at all.
It's not going to work at all.
So, generators in their own, they're quite specialist.
We're also talking about potentially going off structural steel.
Oh, yeah.
So if you were near something, you
absolutely.
could potentially go into that. But you do introduce some, then if it's a PME system,
into that building, which you used as your reference to Earth.
What you're talking there, what's I'm going to say BS 7909, but certainly the IET has two publications on the back of 7909, and it's the temporary power systems and the practitioner's guide to temporary power systems.
That's a good plug, mate. Well done.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. I'm here all week. So you'll find information there. But the concepts of electrical environment come into play. So, for instance, you've got a building like this, and this is probably a good example. Plush building, you've got electrical supply in here, but the film crew needs some super duper lights or some effects, and they've got a generator, and they bring their cables in, and they're bringing in their electrical environment, a bit like a Venn diagram if you think about it.
I've seen this, yeah.
And that's the concept. So you need to consider what's going on there. Yeah. Now, it might be that you connect the main earthing terminal of the generator to the main earthing of the building, but really that's
you're not going to do it. No.
Unless there's something super duper going on that design works for that. But you really need to keep the electrical environments separate as best you can and control it and have someone in charge of the situation to say, don't touch that and that at the same time. Yeah.
But in that scenario that you've just outlined, like you're not, are you? Because you're bringing, let's say, a class 1 light that's got running the CPC.
No. So this is how where you do reduce it. So you will find a lot of the equipment is all class 2, and you're using conductors that are double insulated, and this is a way of reducing that risk. It'd be very rare you'd start use stuff that was class 1 in that type of environment, where you're bringing two systems into one, or bringing one system into another that you've got to keep separate. This is what Mark was on about. You've got to have someone who would manage that and control that,
right?
Because that generator set that you're supplying from has got different characteristics to the natural supply that you find in the installation, and you do have to be trained up on this. And it's a different standard, and it's a different part of BS 7671 for some of them, and it even alludes to there that it's a different standard. So it's bigger and better than what we thought it was. But these generator sets, they get used or misused on so many bases. People just think just strike a generator up, that'll get me what I need to do. There's loads of things you have to think about with generator sets, especially the big ones that are sat there waiting for something to go wrong. They're the ones that because they're not used all the time, people will look at them and not really take account of them. I've done EICRs before where we've gone in and people have said, yeah, we've had lots of people check this out, loads and loads of years, and you say, but there's no earth. No, it doesn't need an earth. I've got an earth in the building. No, your generator says it needs an earth. How long has it been like that? 30 years. So you get these because it's a standby generator. People think lesser of it. Yeah. Well, hold on a minute. If that's standby,
once it's not standing by,
you really need it.
But if you've got a standby generator for a building like this, let's say we're in a big hotel at the moment, aren't we? If the standby generator, because I'm going to keep things going. But if you've lost the supply to the building, you could have lost the connection to Earth. So then you need to consider the connection to Earth for the generator and the installation at that point, because you can't rely on the incoming cable anymore.
No, that's it. Yeah. So so there are different standards out there that we should probably be looking at if you're going to go down the generator set. But I think you're right, Mark. As you said earlier on, we're going to start to see different things available on the market to use as generator sets, and they fall under that umbrella of generator sets. So what's going to happen then? Are you guys at the IET or the international level? You said Netherlands have outlawed some of these. So these are kits that you buy. So how are they outlawing it? Because surely you can't stop people buying them.
They'll ban the product. I mean,
banning the product.
For instance, through trading standards in this country, we could ban a product. It doesn't meet the requirements of our national standards. So it would be illegal to sell in this country, and trading standards would get involved if that was happening.
Yeah.
Or whatever, But of course, you can import. Again, I mentioned you can import things through eBay.
But so banning a product,
nothing against eBay, of course.
No, or any other
bidding sites are available. Banning a product because it's being used badly it's a shame, isn't it? Because they can be used correctly, but it's their use that's not being done.
You can't ever stop someone with the intention of doing something, can you? So. Electrical installation standards are about making the installation safe for the expected use, and it's expected that item of equipment will be used in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions.
Yep.
But if the manufacturer's instructions aren't suitable for a particular country, you're on the back foot already, and if you then implement that appliance in an electrical installation not intended for it, there could be unintended consequences.
It's going to be a tricky one, isn't it? Because I guarantee you there are going to be people out there that are starting to knock up systems of a couple of panels, and there will be, like my dodgy neighbour, there will be people that think, all I've got to do is put a plug on that. Yeah, I hope he's not listening right now. He'll be thinking, all I've got to do is put that in there and I'm off and running. That's it.
Yeah.
There's going to be that people that do that.
Absolutely.
Or there's going to be them people that make them up themselves. It's going to happen. We're going to see it, and that's going to be you guys having to...
Again, you can't stop somebody running an extension lead into their bathroom and sticking a telly on the end of the bath.
No, yeah, they're just idiots, aren't they?
It works very well. I've used it. I guarantee it works.
It freezes your hair up if you're not careful.
So generator sets. I think what we've concluded here, generator sets, if any of you are working with generator sets, if you're working into that moving into that temporary field, there's a definite standard you need to get your head around. That is available. And again, the guys at the IT can help you with that. If you are looking for generator sets to add to your existing supply and you're worried about the energy that you're using, so you want to go over to generator sets, just be careful. It's not as easy as you may first think. Generator sets need to be given really the thought that you're going to put the proper design in there and then the proper installation. It's not a case of plug and play with these things. It can be quite dangerous, can't it? So yeah, look out for that. If you've liked what you listened to, we hope you have. Please like and then share with us so they can enjoy the moment as well. And until next time, thank you for joining us and thank you for listening to another CF Tech Talking podcast.